Hello, class. Our presentation is going to be over organizational culture and diversity. Our class is global management, and it's going to be management 4331. The people that are going to be presenting this presentation are Alejandro Guarneros, Kimberly Aguero, Vanessa Flores, and me, myself, Claire Benavides. So this presentation is going to be over how to be more culturally diverse within the work setting, how important it is to work with a variety of different people, whether that be locally or virtually, overseas, um, and how we can strive to be more culturally intelligent and more understanding and opening with each other um, through various different aspects of the workplace. So for the agenda for today, we're going to be looking at cultural diversity education. So we're going to be watching a quick video, looking at what types of training there are for cultural intelligence, um, and then also looking at the types of organizational culture. There should be 4 different types, so we're going to dive into that. The second part is going to be diversity leadership. So that's going to be the types of leadership roles that there are. It's going to be we're also going to have the importance of having a diverse team. So working with people from all over the place, overseas, 10 minutes away, states away, things like that. And then thirdly, we're going to be embracing diversity and inclusion, looking at that. And that will be how to build a leadership team and how to celebrate your team and their differences. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at some questions, or if you have any questions, we're going to be, answering those. Okay, so moving on to culture diversity education, we need to be able to embrace differences and advocate for inclusion. So, with embracing differences, the more diverse we are, the more we learn from each other. So, people who promote diversity and inclusion are more happier and more productive than those who don't. So, with this, having the proper training also helps you to be more aware and empathize for those around you. So, with this training, it will dilute any misunderstandings and it will just squash any um, misinterpretations and everything. And then also for advocating inclusion, it's important that people include each other, employees include each other so that they are more open minded to change and differences. And then just overall, the workplace needs to be able to have that openness and talk about different ways that different cultures can work together and have peace and harmony. There should be like surveys, and that way people can feel that they are having a say in whether the training is like proper or not, or if they have any feedback on how to improve that. And that would really help the community grow and the environment grow so that people are able to be more happy and productive in their workplace.
Equality, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace. When we think about the topic of equality, diversity, and inclusion, we sometimes think of the Equality Act 2010. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. The 9 protected characteristics are very important in identifying what is protected by law. But what about our behaviors at work? So let's take a closer look at this topic. Equality means each individual or group of people is given the same resources or opportunities. In the UK, the Equality Act 2010 safeguards those with protected characteristics from discrimination in the workplace. Equity, on the other hand, recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. An equity approach emphasizes that everyone should not be treated the same, but according to their own needs. Diversity is to respect and enjoy a wide range of cultural and individual differences, thereby including everyone. Diversity goes beyond recognizing that we are different in measurable ways. Diversity is inclusion. And inclusion at work reflects an environment where all individuals are treated fairly and with respect, regardless of their background, identity, or circumstance, having equal access to opportunities and resources which allow them to contribute to the organization's success. The idea behind the iceberg model is that culture is pictured as an iceberg. Only a very small proportion of the iceberg is visible above the waterline. The tip of the iceberg is in fact supported by a much larger, although invisible part underneath the water. This part of the iceberg is its foundation. Above the waterline, examples of visible parts include food, style of dress, music, and language. But the powerful dimensions of culture are the more difficult to spot. The social norms, the values, the basic assumptions about space and time, and the concept of justice and of self. The iceberg model of culture implies that the visible parts of culture are just expressions of the invisible parts. It highlights the difficulty of understanding people from different cultural backgrounds, because although we see what's above the waterline, we cannot immediately realize what the foundations are. Unconscious bias is implicit preference. It refers to a bias which we're unaware of and which happens outside of our control. It is a bias that happens automatically and is triggered by our brain making a quick judgment and assessment of people and situations. It is influenced by our socialization, background, cultural environment, and personal experiences. It may be responsible for negative assumptions and unwitting discrimination against people who may be considered different and do not share the same values, background, and culture as ours. When we embrace organizational equality, diversity, and inclusion, there are huge benefits for all of us. Increased productivity, a rise in creativity, more innovation, fast problem solving, and better decision making. So we all have a duty to foster and embrace equality, diversity, and inclusion. Let's get started.
So something that I would like to highlight on from the video is that it talked about the Equality Act of 2010 in Europe. We need to be aware of different countries, different laws, because if we're going to be working with people overseas, it's important to understand that they have their laws as well. So something that we have similar to the Equality Act would be the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This act prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, and religion. And then if we go back to the example of the iceberg model, we realize that our initial assumption about a person may not always be in line with their background. So we need to make sure that we're aware of like the different stereotypes. Talked about unconscious bias that also goes along with the stereotypes. It's important to just dismiss those different types of stereotypes in order to be aware of like people and their feelings. A great saying that we could think about is don't always judge a book by its cover. You never know who they are or what they've been through. So I think it's important to get to know a person and that we have the proper training in order to do so.
So now let's take a look at what is the purpose and objective of culture diversity training. First, the purpose. Understanding of culture. If you take the time to understand different cultures, you will also decrease your negative behaviors. You could also help other people decrease their negative behaviors. And negative behaviors could be as microaggression, those jokes that people make that are insensitive, emails that people put out, comments, anything like that has an effect on another person. Also, stereotyping. Stereotyping is something that you're not aware that you are doing. But if you become understanding of different cultures, you can learn and behave different. So if we take up the objectives, is to create more inclusive work environment, make it where everybody feels like they want to be there, expanding your knowledge and your skills. Everybody, learning is the platform to knowledge.
Shalom. I'd like to apply for a loan.
That's nice, Dwight.
Okay, do me. Something stereotypical so I can get it really quick.
Okay, I like your food.
Outback Steakhouse. I'm Australian, mate.
Examine your own assumptions and know that you are biased. So what is biasness? Biasness is when you create your own opinion on something and assume you're right compared to no knowledge or truth. So what can we do as people to ensure that we change our behaviors? First, learn about your own biasnesses. You can't teach on something if you're not aware of your own truth. Next, educate yourself. Learn about different cultures. Learn about different parts of the world. And then lastly, don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask the questions that you need. If you go to a different country and you don't understand the customs, ask. They'll be happy to let you know. 4 types of organizational culture. So depending on what part of the world you are in, they will have different cultures for how they run their organization. So let's first take a look at the family culture, which is mostly known in Turkey, Pakistan, Venezuela, China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. So it is kind of exactly how it sounds. The head person is the leader, and they are the parent. They would know what's best for the personnel. So there's no question. They know what's best. They're the parent, and their employees listen to them. So next is the Eiffel Tower culture, which is mostly in Northwestern Europe countries, where each person knows what they're supposed to do, and it works from the top to the bottom. The person at the top can be replaced at any moment. So it's kind of like a triangle. The person at the top runs it, and the people at the bottom do what they're supposed to do. So if we go to the guided missile culture, which is United States and the United Kingdom, jobs are assigned, are fixed and limited, and personnel is guided missile culture, do whatever it takes to get the job done. So they're going to do what they need to do to ensure that that job gets done. Last is the incubator culture, mostly known in Silicon Valley or Silicon Glen, Scotland. It is little to no formal structure and serves as an incubator for self-expression and self-involvement of their members. So they usually are self-involved. They do what they do. So that is different aspects of the organizational culture. I also added a slide here to tell you more things about the organizational culture. So if you have any questions or
Changing the way
let me know.
build a diverse organization.
Looking at the pinwheel, you can see the first thing is recruitment. Changing the way the organization recruits ensures the company has a recruitment team that is focused on diverse and inclusion. 2, flexible workspace. Offering an open approach in the workforce, offering sick leave, PTO, maternity pay. Ensures the company's mission and values create a strong culture environment. 3, supportive leadership. Hire leaders that encourage diversity and understanding bias. When recruiting ensures that leaders are hired that have values that align with the organization. Last but not least, address all areas of concern. Establish policies and procedures that align with the organization's new diverse culture. Listen to the staff, encourage them to voice their opinions and concerns, and then it starts all over again. Keep doing this to build a diverse organization.
Virtual and local training are highly important. Each one has their advantages and disadvantages. So let's look at some advantages. When it comes to virtual, some advantages include that it works with everyone's schedule, meaning time zones will not affect the work, that work will continue to be done in different areas despite time differences because it's easy accessible through technology. There's no language barrier because with technology being advanced, there's translations for different languages. Progress is able to be tracked, so it is easier to get feedback whenever sending out surveys or questions. The teams can work at their own pace, and there's possibility for more interactive training. So, like I was saying, whenever they send out a survey or they can produce different activities with the technology and get instant feedback, which is beneficial. So overall, these are some advantages for virtual. As for local, some advantages can be to listen to teams' concerns, allow people to get together, and able to gather different ideas. So overall, whenever it comes to local, they're able to see more face to face and connect on a different level of just being able to be in the same area together in person. So overall, with both though, the company still needs to establish a follow-up and constantly keep their training updated to fit new trainings and new resources and new laws in order to keep their training updated. Now that we have been educated some on diversity, we can now look at diversity leadership training. We can now look at leadership roles. Great leadership is the glue that holds the organization together. What roles do leaders play in fostering cultural diversity within the organization? Well, they can develop a diverse team, change policies and procedures to promote diversity and inclusion, encourage inclusivity among team members, maintain a talented and diverse workforce, and drive positive change within the organization. Overall, these leaders strive to keep the environment very inclusive and encouraging for their team members. We now move into developed corporate culture. To my right, we can see where it says 37% of employees say working with a great team is their primary reason for staying. So, how does this pertain to corporate culture? Well, corporate culture is whenever the atmosphere of a place and the culture of it tends to be happier and the environment is efficient. Overall, it just really helps retain your employees, as well as helping the business grow, keeping the employees engaged, and overall just creating productivity and innovation within the company because it creates an atmosphere where people are comfortable to work in. So within this corporate, there should be some vision, some mission ethics, some leadership, and some goals. Overall, just to keep everyone on track and satisfied with their work that they're producing to see that it's actually affecting the company and helping it. So overall, corporate culture is highly important in order to keep a business successful.
Now, the next slide is embracing diversity and inclusion. In today's world, diversity and inclusion is super important. It's not just about having different kinds of people around. It's about welcoming everyone's unique backgrounds, ideas, and feelings. Inclusion means everyone gets to join in and feel awesome about being part of the team. When we celebrate diversity and inclusion, we get to unlock all sorts of cool stuff, like new ideas, creativity, and making things better for everyone. So in this presentation, or in the next slides, we'll see how being inclusive and diverse isn't just nice, it's super smart for making businesses and communities awesome places to be. Now, this following slide talks about diversity in teams. Think about it like having a big box of crayons with lots of colors. It brings together all kinds of different ideas and perspectives, making our work even more exciting and creative. When we work with people who are different from us, not only do we learn new things and can solve problems in better ways, but it just makes our team stronger and more fun to be a part of. So just like a colorful picture, embracing diversity makes our work brighter and more beautiful. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of bullet points listed with positive or benefits of the teams. Some include working in teams helps you take risks that pays off. And that comes from the point of one person pushes you a little bit more to take that risk, because instead of you doing it by yourself, you feel like you have that cushion of someone else. So it's just going to help you take that risk a little bit more and not be so scared. Number two is when you work in a team, you feel less stressed, and that is very true. To the point where the work can be divided. People have different roles. Maybe you're not good at hawking, but you're good at something else. So that stress is distributed among peers. It just makes it way easier. Three is improved creativity. I mean, instead of having one creative head, you have, depending on the size of the team, but let's say 6, then you have 6 creative heads, and you're not burning your head off trying to come up with new things. Number 4 is increased profits. And again, instead of one person trying to make it work, it's a lot of persons making it work. So it's just easier for the outcome to be more productive and, like it says here, with a higher profit. So it's being done in a better way, you know? Number 5 is improve employee engagement. And that makes complete sense, since you're just going to have a better overall team, and it's all going to be united. And it's just going to create like a bigger bond throughout the whole company. Number 6 is teamwork can make you happier. And that's 100% true. This goes back to bullet point number 2, because you're not as stressed as you should be if you were doing it by yourself. So that's where these two can relate, and it's just a bigger and overall benefit. Number 7 is when you work in a team, you grow as an individual, and that's 100% true as well. Because you're learning as time goes, even though you have like a due date and an objective, you're still learning with that person, the way they think, the way they do their stuff. So you're gonna be growing as you progress to complete your objective. Number 8 is sharing the workload eases burnout. That goes back to our number 2, which is just having that less stress and not just letting it pile on top of you. Number 9 is dividing the work lets you grow your skills. And I mentioned that when I was talking about number 2 as well, because let's say, like the example I gave was, if you're not good at public speaking, but you're good at something else, then that's where the roles can be reversed, and someone who's good at it can come in and help you out. And that way, each part is delivered to its maximum potential instead of you delivering a public speech and you know you're not good at it, so it's gonna be like not your best work, you know. So we continue on with the points, and number 10 is reduce employee turnover, and that's 100% true. That's also that connects with number 2, which is just the same thing of not feeling so stressed, so it doesn't make your employees want to quit, and it improves your overall employee engagement. Therefore, that it's gonna reduce the employee turnover. Number 11 is improve company reputation, and the way it's just gonna, if there's diversity and it's being used the way it should be, it's just gonna give your company a better reputation because people are gonna want to work with you because you know they're gonna feel safe and they know they're gonna feel in an environment where they're gonna be pushed to work and not like be forced to it. So moving on to number 12, wider range of skills, same thing as before. One person versus 6, there's always going to be more skills trying to work out something. And then number 13, it improves cultural insights 100%. I have to agree with that. 14 is create ideas. Great ideas don't come from lone geniuses. And that goes back to what I just said, which is one person versus 6 working together. The people or the group who's working within 6 is always going to have a better result. So from every standpoint, just from checking, one person can check a whole PowerPoint, but 6 people can check it. It's probably going to be better when 6 people check it because everyone's going to find a different mistake. Then 15 is diverse perspective, helps you come up with winning innovations. I have to agree with that 100%. That goes back to some of the points I discussed. And then recognition from other team members can improve your productivity, and that's 100%. Instead of waiting for your CEO to give you that recognition or that hard work, and you're within a team, maybe your team members are playing that role of CEO and giving you that recognition in the moment. You know, maybe you did something very good and you get recognized, and it just pushes you and you feel much better instead of waiting, let's say at the end of the month when you have your monthly meeting and then you're recognized until then. I mean, this just pushes you to be better and faster. Our next slide, as the title states, celebrate your team. Our main focus is showing how you should encourage and embrace those differences from everyone within. On the right-hand side, we can see the little graphic which says diversity. And if I read it out, it says different individuals valuing each other regardless skin, intellect, talent, or years. And that's what we mean by encourage and embrace differences. And how we relate it to the title is because most of the times it's not really being rewarded, or it's not really talked about as much as it should. And let me go into like a bigger detail. So having an open communication with staff and leadership. That's one way that's gonna embrace that diversity. And you might say, how or why is that related? It's because maybe someone might not be feeling their best during those moments or whatever the situation is, but having your staff or you providing that mentality that they can talk with you and they can speak with you, it just gives them an easier access to feeling wanted instead of being demanded and feeling like a robot. You know, it gives them more of that humanoid feeling, which is what every company should do. It's not the case everywhere, but we're all humans and we all have emotions and feelings and we all mess up. So just having that bond between owner or CEO and staff is really gonna uh, embrace the diversity and not make them feel like divided. That's where I'm trying to go. Now, some things or some embraces could be the remote work, which is letting people have that access of choosing whether they want to be working in an office or at their home, but having that option, especially nowadays, is just going to bring in much more attention. Much more people are going to be interested, and it's just going to be like overall better because people can perform better if they feel more secure or whatever the situation might be at their house during that day, and just being more just having that remote work is going to open up a lot more doors. Having flexible hours, I think it's been pretty standardized to the point where um, companies have to keep you for certain hours at a specific time, specific date, and everything's just so specific that you have to work your whole life around it. And it makes sense because that's how it's always worked and that's how things usually work. But having those flexible hours, it just gives you a bigger benefit of things you can and you can't do. Maybe let's say if you're giving 2 days of the week where you have your flexible hours and you're not feeling your best, you're probably gonna perform better, and it's just gonna feel you're gonna be like more intrigued to do your work, and you're gonna feel more embraced to be like within the work, instead of just being forced to it. And then parental leave is another one. Sometimes or most of the time, there's parents that are working in the company and they have different situations with their kids and things like that. And for some reason, companies sometimes can't understand it, but it doesn't. I mean, things happen, and having that parental leave is just a big plus in a lot of companies, and it's going to just grow the whole reputation of one. Um, Cultural awareness is also a big one. This goes basically with the whole topic of the presentation. I mean, you're not the only one there. You're not the only ethnicity. You're not the only culture. So just being aware that there's people that have different mannerisms or different ways of explaining themselves is just gonna make you. It's gonna make you one understand the whole situation more, and it's gonna make them more comfortable. So it's like not gonna get anyone off guard, which is the main point of this whole topic. Um, Also, public recognition is a very big one, because that's a big way to celebrate your team. People don't usually do it, and when they do, it's probably like once a year. So it should be more standardized and done more regularly, because yeah, you're doing a job, and it doesn't matter if you're an adult. People like being celebrated, and they like to know when they're doing good, and especially if they recognize you in front of like a public audience, um, they're gonna feel even better, and they're gonna try and want to do it even more times instead of just that one time. So overall, it's having that welcoming in the environment from the organization and the community. Our next slide, as the title states, so coming down to our conclusion, we have gone over the importance showing how diversity encourage and embrace those different leadership from everyone and embracing that diversity. On the right hand side, we can see the little graphic which says diversity. So coming down to our conclusion, we have gone over the importance in cultural diversity, diversity leadership, and embracing that diversity and inclusion in the workplace. The team came up with some like bullet points that we see can conclude the whole topic. And the first one is embrace and encourage a diverse and inclusive team, because that's more or less what we're trying to explain with these bullet points is like what organizations need to do in order for diversity to play out how it's supposed to, you know? So yes, company need to embrace and encourage a diverse and inclusive team. They need to boost the organization to have a diverse culture. That should be like one of their main bullet points. It should be included next to the mission statement because it's a very important thing. It's just a way that's going to make the business work as it should. Also, diversity enhances retention, develops stronger leadership, and increases creativity. That's 100% true. Because when everything goes smoothly and the way it should, it's just going to make everyone, like I stated before, feel at home and feel better to perform. Also, the next point is regularly assess organizational culture and diversity metrics to track progress. I have to totally agree with that as well. The point after that is as younger generations enter the workforce, they will be heightened. And finally, advancements in technologies such as AI and automation will reshape organizational structures, which is true. Not just because AI will be added on and you will be probably involved with technology more than humans, that doesn't mean that diversity shouldn't be in its place and shouldn't be the way that it's supposed to. Things shouldn't change because at the end of the day, people are still going to be people. And if you want your company to be at its full potential, then it starts with the diversity within your team. Who you need to know who you have, you need to know what they do, you need to know where you want to go and how you want to take it and what's the way you want to do it. Because if you don't transfer that information to your staff, then it's not going to probably result in the way you want to. Everyone needs to be on the same page. Everyone needs to know what the target is and what's the way to do it, especially. Because, like we stated, there's a very big importance in cultural diversity. Now, an example or something I wanted to add on is the fact that even us, during this project, we faced our diversity. You know, we all have different backgrounds. We all have different stuff that's going on besides school. Everyone's busy in their own way, and we managed to make it work. We managed to embrace the diversity and understand what everyone needed, what everyone wanted, and that's how we made it work at the end of the day. I feel like I could include myself in like that ethnicity type of diversity because I feel like my accent isn't very good, me being from Mexico, but I make it work. I know I need to be there for my team. They've supported me in the way that they felt was right, and I received that criticism and I felt that support, and that's why it pushed me to be better and try and perform at my best and work to what I needed to do. So it just shows how even small projects like these, cultural diversity is present and it can be managed in any way. So yeah. Now, if anyone has any questions, this is the time to do it. Either ask them or type them. Thank you.